So I think everybody watching this video knows what Fortnite is at this point, so I'll cut the intro and try to get to the meat real quick. Despite Fortnite being such a well-known game, there are a lot of secrets, hidden tidbits, and deep lore to the game that the average player may not know about. Today we will be looking at these secrets in the form of an iceberg, which is a format that's gotten quite popular recently in videos explaining secrets of a specific game or franchise. Basically, the gist of the iceberg is that at the top are the more well-known stuff about the game, and at the bottom is the totally obscure stuff that two people know. Big thanks to Reddit user AwkwardGamer for making the iceberg, as well as Sandwich Zebra who made a comment adding more things to the list. Also, please note that I excluded some topics as they're either jokes or they repeated a previous point in the iceberg. So without further ado, let's dive into the depths of the Fortnite iceberg. Let's start off with the bunkers. The bunkers of Fortnite are quite well known in the community, but they are still pretty mysterious. The first one popped up in Wailing Woods in Chapter 1 Season 4 over 2 years ago. It was a door that led underground, but you couldn't pass through it or destroy it, meaning that nobody knew what was behind it. People tried to go into the bunker using no-clip or replay mode, but even though they were able to go underneath the door, all they saw was a hole, with nothing important in it. People speculated for a while, ever since 2 years ago, that one day the bunker would open and something important would be inside. But that day never came. However, they did add more bunkers, such as the one in the Iceberg biome in Season 7. But other than that, nothing was done with them. When the map changed for Chapter 2, people were quick to find that the indestructible bunkers were also on the new map. But they still haven't done anything. Overall, this just seems like something that Epic Games puts in for mystery and tradition, and it probably won't ever mean anything. The ZAPATRON was an early weapon in the game that has received a sort of mythical status within the community. The ZAPATRON was added into the game on September 25th, 2017, and was removed sometime before October 5th, 2017. This was during the pre-season era of Fortnite Battle Royale, back when the people who even knew about the game only thought of it as a cheap PUBG knockoff. As such, many people who have played the game since have never even seen it. I mean, we literally only have 20 seconds of gameplay footage of the ZAPATRON in Battle Royale. That's it. The ZAPATRON was a legendary rarity sniper rifle that used hit scan, meaning that it was extremely easy to hit enemies farther away. It was only found in supply drops and used a special type of ammo called cell ammo, which was also limited to supply drops. You could switch between a burst fire mode and a charge up mode. If you charged the ZAPATRON to its full capacity and then fired it, it would do an astonishing 150 damage. It was removed quickly for disrupting the balance of the game and not really fitting into the Battle Royale mode. You can still use it in Save the World version of the game, but it's likely never coming back to Battle Royale. The Seven are a mysterious organization who seem to be pulling the strings of the Fortnite storyline. Even more interesting is that all the members seem to be the same person, just alternate universe versions. The first member we were introduced to was the Visitor, who crashed into the island on the meteor in Season 4. He was able to escape the meteor and build a rocket to escape the island, leaving behind the giant rift that kickstarted the whole storyline in the first place. The next member of the Seven wasn't even introduced until Season X. He was the Scientist. The Scientist, like the Visitor, arrived to the island on the meteor which would have crashed into Dusty Depot. However, in this timeline, time was frozen in that area just before the meteor crashed, leaving Dusty intact. The Scientist used this opportunity to set up camp in Dusty and activate rift zones across the island, bringing more alternate timelines onto the map. The Scientist was also responsible for creating and launching the second rocket, which hit the 0 point and created a black hole, destroying the Chapter 1 map and bringing us to Chapter 2. The third member of the Seven is the Paradigm. We don't know much about her, but we can infer that she helped the Scientist create the rifts in the rocket. One interesting theory about the Paradigm is that she is actually the same person as Singularity, seeing as they both share the same exact model for their body. And considering that Singularity is another character who is very important to the storyline, this theory would be interesting and has a high chance of being true. Basically, the Seven seem to know that they are stuck inside a loop of sorts, being forced to kill each other over and over again for sport. And the more times they are looped, the more memories they lose. Perhaps their final plan is to destroy this loop of violence. But we don't know right now, and we'll have to wait for more members to be revealed. Alright, if that messed up timeline stuff in the last part confused you, Let's get back to some classic Fortnite. Rocket riding was discovered when players found out that with some precise timing, you can actually jump on the hitbox of a rocket being launched out of a rocket launcher. If you got it right, you would be able to ride on the rocket like a flying surfboard. This was actually a bug, and the Fortnite development team discussed if they should patch it or not. Thankfully, they decided to leave it in the game because the players were just having so much fun with it. And it's a good thing they did, because rocket riding became one of the most iconic parts of Fortnite Battle Royale. As the seasons went on, players found more cool ways of riding items. People were able to rocket ride by themselves for as long as they wanted using the guided missile. And in Chapter 2, when the ability to throw band-aids and shields was added, players figured out that you could actually ride those items while in the air with some insane timing. This one isn't going to be too long. Basically, in Chapter 2 of the game, along with the main storyline, you also had this silly side story about a war between teddy bears and gnomes. It was a brutal war that lasted for a while, and players watched as the front lines moved every update. But thankfully, due to some cool challenges you were able to do, players negotiated a peace treaty between the two sides, and now the bears and gnomes are just chilling on the map. Kevin the Cube is another iconic part of Fortnite history. He first appeared on the map in Season 5, born out of the rift lightning in the desert. He then started to roll across the map, destroying everything in his path and leaving ruins in the ground. Why is he called Kevin, you ask? Well, while all this was going down, people were rightfully very invested in the situation. There were so many posts talking about it on the Fortnite BR subreddit that the moderators would automatically remove any post that had Cube in it. Well, one user bypassed this by referring to the Cube as Kevin. People were amused by this, and the nickname caught on, and soon people only began to refer to the Cube as Kevin. Eventually, even the game developers made that the Cube's official name. Honestly, even though I crap on Reddit communities a lot, this was one time when they were actually able to accomplish something pretty cool. But what happened to Kevin himself? Well, he made it to Loot Lake, where he then dissolved into the water and turned the whole lake into a bounty platform that was super fun to fight on. When Season 6 came to the game, he manifested back into a cube and lifted Loot Lake up into the sky on a floating island. Near the end of that season, Kevin was seemingly destroyed in the butterfly event. But he wasn't done. In Season X, an alternate universe version of Kevin was brought to the island, but this time, instead of Loot Lake being on the floating island, it was the old motel. At the end of Season X, he disappeared along with the map in the black hole. But thankfully, in the Chapter 2 map, we see yet another alternate universe version of Kevin. It seems like the people in the Chapter 2 universe were able to harness Kevin for energy. The Ultra organization was able to build a power plant around his essence, which had been liquefied and named it Kevolution Energy. Right now, nothing of note happened in the power plant yet, but I'm sure that Kevin will come back to his full form in the future. There are theories stating that Kevin is actually a reincarnated Storm King from Save the World, and while there is definitely evidence for this, I'm skeptical. But what I am sure about is that Kevin is one of the most iconic and beloved parts of the community, inspiring a whole rarity of skins and just being a symbol for the community to bond over. This is a pretty recent one. So near the end of Chapter 2 Season 3, Epic Games implemented the direct payment feature, bypassing the 30% cut of money they had to give to their respective platforms on Apple and Google. This way, any in-game transactions involving real money would be 20% cheaper, which is good for the players. However, this broke the Apple's App Store TOS, and Apple quickly removed Fortnite from the App Store. Epic Games quickly responded with the hashtag #FreeFortnite event, inviting their users to watch a short film they made called 1980 Fortnite. I'm sorry, it's just so stupid. George Orwell would have been rolling in his grave if he saw how his works were being used now. Anyways, this basically proves that Epic Games knew that this decision would cause controversy, and they decided to do it anyway for PR. Epic tried to take the stance of an underdog, fighting for rights against a big, tyrannical Apple. And while some people believed this stance initially, it has become clear at this point that Epic is just doing this for attention. The case went to court, and Apple won because the judge saw that it was basically all just a PR stunt. So right now, Fortnite is banned off the App Store until the very least summer 2021. I feel bad for the iPhone players who are now stuck playing Season 3 over and over again while everyone else gets to move on to other seasons. I honestly wonder why Epic just doesn't concede and remove direct payment for Apple. I'm sure Apple users would rather have to pay an extra 20% for stuff than not being able to play at all. So next up is the death of Midas. Midas is a character from the Chapter 2 Season 2 Battle Pass who, like the Seven, seemed to have been aware that he was stuck in a game being forced to kill over and over again. After he gained this realization, he decided to create something to break out. Creatively named the Device, he was actually able to break out of the loop and defy the storm for some seconds, before the developers essentially created a quick patch to put them back in by replacing the storm with a wall of water. After this, in the Chapter 2 Season 3 trailer, we can see Midas sulking on a raft before being comedically eaten by a shark. People were surprised that such a major character would be killed off in such a stupid way. So maybe he's not really dead? So this is in reference to the trailer for Season 9. Jonesy and Peely, who is this giant sentient banana, escaped the volcano eruption by hiding in a bunker. They're delighted to find out that the bunker is decked out with video games, dance floors, and even a gym. However, they quickly realize that despite all this luxury, the bunker has no food. They ponder over their situation before Jonesy realizes that he is literally living with a giant banana, and you can connect the dots from there. The next we see of him, he has long hair and a giant beard, wearing the peel of a banana and drinking a banana smoothie. It also seems that he used Peely's intestines for that pink paint he rubbed all over himself, and yes, Peely does have intestines. Luckily, it seems like Peely still lives on in the smoothie form while being drunk by Jonesy, so it probably turned out okay. The removal of the double pump is one of the biggest nerfs Epic Games has ever done to a mechanic, straight up ever. So basically, the double pump was this big thing back in Chapter 1, Seasons 3 and 4, where if you had 2 pump shotguns in your inventory, you would be able to fire them back to back and deal serious damage. This method was completely busted, and Epic Games nerfed it in one of the most overt ways possible. They made it so that if you tried to switch to a shotgun after firing a shotgun, there would be a literal cooldown timer shown on your screen before you can fire that shotgun again. It wasn't just for pumps, it was for any shotgun, and to this day, that timer still exists. So this is a bit of an odd one to end off this section, but hear me out. This theory revolves around Dire, the tier 100 skin of Chapter 1 Season 6. He's a werewolf, but where is his tail? Well, we can answer this question by looking at FABLE, another skin from the same battle pass. FABLE is obviously based off of Little Red Riding Hood, but instead of being scared by wolves, she hunts them down. If we look at the skin, we can see the wolf tail hanging off of her belt, so it's clear that FABLE cut it off. But that's not even the worst of it. If we look at FABLE's glider, we can actually see that she baked the tail into a pie. Man, poor Dire. In Season 7, there was a location called Polar Peak, which slowly thawed out as the season went by. When the dungeon of the castle was revealed, people saw a bunch of eggs in the dungeon with what seemed like a baby dragon inside. People speculated that a dragon would hatch for a live event and kickstart the next season. Well, the eggs actually hatched into Hybrid, who was a skin in the Season 8 Battle Pass that was like a half ninja, half dragon creature, which was still pretty cool. Yeah, this one is basically confirmed through leaks. There is apparently a leaked Midas boss for this year's Fortnite nerds that, depending on when this video comes out, might be in the game while you're watching this. And also, there was a leaked skin bundle that had a new Midas Rex skin, which is just Midas in a suit of armor. So yeah, he's still alive. Ooh boy, I really had to talk about this, don't I? So, in the Season 6 Battle Pass, you had the Tier 1 skin Calamity, who was a cowgirl. Well, one of the developers was a little naughty and decided to add jiggle physics to a certain part of her body. I will elaborate no further. After some outrage and a bunch of memes bringing attention to this, the developers removed this. Officially, Epic Games called it a bug, but I think we all know the real story. This one is pretty cool. During the 2 days that Fortnite was consumed by the black hole, if you entered the Konami cheat code on the black hole screen, you were able to unlock a Space Invaders parody minigame that was the same one Peely and Jonesy played in the bunker. The game showed you the high scores Peely and Jonesy got, and some players were able to actually beat the ludicrous 92,786 points. Sadly, it didn't seem to give you any reward. This is actually a pretty forgotten part of Fortnite history. If you went into Playground mode around November of 2018, you would find a bunch of challenge minigames floating above Loot Lake. The minigames weren't anything special, so I won't really go over them a lot. You were also able to spawn the minigames using an item similar to a Port-a-Fort. I don't really think anybody was that excited about them, so they were removed and forgotten by many. So I don't know exactly what this is referring to, because it seems like clickbaiting fools try and convince gullible 9-year-olds that there's going to be a Kraken event for the season for what seems like years now. But the most reasonable Kraken theory was actually in Chapter 2 Season 3. So this was, first of all, a water-themed season with the map flooded. So already we have reason to believe that a sea monster could show up. Also, the teasers for the season placed huge emphasis on Ohm, the robotic owl of jewels. In Greek mythology, there was a metal owl who was sent by Athena to the hero Perseus to help him fight the Kraken, and Athena was the code name of the Chapter 1 Fortnite map. It all seemed to come together, but as we know now, there was no live event at all for Chapter 2 Season 3. This theory basically states that Jonesy and Peely are the same person. It is based off an animated short where Jonesy is eating a banana and walks into a rift, and he is spit out fused with the banana. I mean, if you consider the skit canon, the theory is true. Oh man, this brings me back to the good old days of the game. 2 years ago, there were these swing sets in a bunch of locations around the map. If you jumped on them, the physics became really buggy and your game would glitch out. What makes this glitch interesting is that people got banned if they invoked it, even though it wasn't a hack of any kind. Epic Games came out and they said that they knew that people were getting auto-banned for the swing set glitch, and that they would hopefully fix it soon. What happened is that when your game was bugging out on the swing set, the game thought that you were speed hacking for some reason and would auto-ban you. Yeah, really strange. So Fortnite has gained a notoriety for collaborating with a bunch of franchises, ranging from Marvel to DC to Star Wars to Stranger Things to Travis Scott to Jordans, bringing skins and sometimes even events to the games. This theory states that these collaborations are more than just money grabs and have actual impacts on the storyline. I would be skeptical if this theory was thrown around a year ago, but now it kind of is true. I mean, the Season 4 storyline is all about Marvel, and the events occurring in Fortnite are technically canon within the Marvel universe. And you had Deadpool in Chapter 2 Season 2, who was a member of the Ego organization. And then back in the Chapter 2 Season 1 Star Wars event, you had Emperor Palpatine make his declaration to the universe that he was back, which was the whole premise of the Rise of Skywalker. So basically, if you didn't watch the Fortnite event, you wouldn't have seen what Palpatine's speech was, which is so stupid on so many levels. So yeah, collaborations are canon, but that doesn't mean I'm happy about it. So this was a hard mystery to find and research, but I was able to find out about it. So in the Final Reckoning posters, the one featuring Willow had her with a red bow on her head. However, when she actually came to the game as a skin, that red bow was nowhere to be seen. Where did it go? The most likely answer is that it was just a last-minute design change. The mythic goldfish was a super rare item added in the game in Chapter 2 Season 1. You had a 1 in a million chance of catching it from a fishing spot. You were able to throw it, and if it hit someone, it did 200 damage to them, basically killing them in one hit. There were 3 achievements you can get from the mythic goldfish, one for catching it, one for killing someone with it, and one for being killed by it. This theory sounds pretty strange until you realize that disabled means that the skin was actually disabled, you weren't able to use it. It's common for an item or a weapon to be disabled for fixes, but a skin? Now that's weird. Here's the story. During Season 6 of Fortnite, there was a glitch with the Zoe skin that caused it to be completely unable to render into the game. That's right, you would be completely invisible to your friends and enemies. Now, I don't really know why this happened and why only the Zoe skin was affected, but as you can probably tell, being completely invisible can give you quite the advantage against enemies. So as a result, Epic disabled players from using the skin until they fixed a bug. So we already talked about Midas, but another skin he has connections to is Oro. Oro was leaked in Chapter 2 Season 1, and people thought that he was going to be the Tier 100 skin for Chapter 2 Season 2, but it turned out to be Midas instead. But people quickly started to realize some similarities. First, both Midas and Oro have strong connections to gold. Second of all, they both have the same scar over their right eye, and they also apparently wear the same shoes. And also, Oro's set is literally called the Midas's Revenge set. Maybe Oro is the dead skeleton of Midas? Also, looking at the Midas Rex skin, we see more similarities. The logo on Midas Rex's armor looks the same as Oro's crown and the logo on his armor. And they both have a similar piece of cloth on their armor. There's obviously a connection. Another theory I wanted to talk about in the same breath is the fact that Wrath may also be Midas as well. He's also part of the Midas' Revenge set, and he also has his right eye covered. Maybe all these 3 skins are just Midas in different stages of his life? So 2 years ago, Bright Bomber was released, but what people thought was her backbling, the Bright Bag, didn't come out with her. So somebody started the rumor that if you were able to find all 3 llamas in a single Fortnite match and open them, you would be able to unlock the Bright Bag backbling. This rumor became pretty popular and people actually started to believe it, considering that finding and opening all 3 llamas in a single game was really hard back then, and still is now. Many people weren't able to verify if this rumor was false for themselves. Obviously the rumor was fake, as the Bright Bag would release alongside the Bright Blaster skin later. However, I still have a weird fondness towards this rumor, as it reminds me of when I was in elementary school, and my friends and I would exchange myths on the playground about how we had to do some crazy stuff in order to unlock a legendary Pokemon. In Season 8, we got this really weird loading screen. It shows a line of Peelies doing the Nana up the volcano, and at the head of the line was carrying what seemed to be King Peely on a throne. Unfortunately, it seems like these Peelies were going to sacrifice to King Peely to whatever banana god they worshipped by throwing him into the volcano. This was never actually referenced in the actual game, and we never got a style for King Peely that many people thought we would. It just seems like another dark joke Fortnite is known for. The Star Wand is a rare rarity pickaxe you could buy in the Fortnite item shop for 800 V-Bucks. It's a pretty interesting looking pickaxe with some unique colors. But what's so special about it? On September 11th, 2019, there was a glitch with the pickaxe where instead of doing the typical 20 damage to players, it did 56 damage with 86 headshot damage. Not only was this strange because it was dealing such a specific amount of damage, it also dealt a greater amount of damage for a headshot, which doesn't happen with a normal pickaxe. So obviously a lot of people who already had this pickaxe started using it because it was quite overpowered. I mean, you could kill somebody at full shield in 3 swings if you got a headshot 2 of those times. Obviously this was quickly patched, but it's still an interesting tidbit of Fortnite history. Okay, this one is really weird because I could not find anything online that references it, but I know it exists because I vividly remember reading about it. I tried to find the original post for so long, or anything else talking about it, but I simply couldn't. From what I remember, if you stood at a specific spot in Loot Lake, some objects and shadows would line up to make the Smash logo. Probably a coincidence, but it still led to some people speculating that Fortnite characters could make it into Smash. If anyone knows about the original post, please comment the link down below because I'm going off just my memory for this one. The Slumber skin is an epic rarity skin that released into the item shop during Season X. It's a pretty cool looking skin. It's this weird cosmic being in pajamas. But today we're going to look at his head. As you can obviously see, it's a star. But the interesting thing is that the Slumber skin was released along the POI Starry Suburbs. And Starry Suburbs had this unique perk where stars would drop down and give you loot by searching them. And these stars have the same exact model as Slumber's head. Is this just epic reusing models? Or are we crushing the skulls of the Slumber species every time we want to get some loot? We will never know. This theory pertains to the Season 8 Battle Pass. Many people were disappointed with the Tier 100 skin Luke's. She's pretty clean, but not flashy enough to be in the same league as the other Tier 100 skins we gotten. However, some players noticed that she was wearing a lock around her neck. It might have been a stretch, but maybe as the season went on, we were able to unlock this and unleash Luke's true form, a style worthy of being called a Tier 100? It was possible. In order to open a lock, you need a key. It was kinda convenient that we had a skin that revolved around keys in the same battle pass, Master Key. Perhaps Master Key would play a role in unlocking Luke's true potential. Of course, as we know now, nothing like this ever happened. A better explanation for Luke's Tier 100 position is that she was switched with the Blackheart skin last minute. Blackheart was one of the Tier 1 skins of Season 8, but he seemed like a much better fit for Tier 100 because he is more intimidating and he has a lot more progression going on. Luke's also fits the Tier 1 position well. However, leading up to Season 8, a lot of players were talking about how it was weird that Fortnite had never had a Tier 100 skin who was female. So maybe they just switched the positions of Blackheart and Luke's in the Battle Pass and they called her the first female Tier 100. Crystal is an uncommon skin in the item shop you can buy for 800 V-Bucks. If you look at her neck, you can see that she's wearing some sort of necklace with a purple crystal. Well, we're all too familiar with the purple solid in the game, Kevin. The literal crystal she wears around her neck, what she's named after, bears a striking similarity to the dead Kevin shards found on the map. So Crystal is probably wearing a piece of Kevin. Not that it really means anything in the context of Fortnite's story or the real world, I guess. We already talked about how Fortnite has done a lot of collaborations. However, there are some obscure ones you may not have known of. The first was a Wreck-It Ralph collaboration to promote the movie Ralph Breaks the Internet. All that came out of it was that players were able to get a free emote and the titular Ralph would show up on the screen at risk reveals for a couple of seconds. You would hardly even call it a collaboration. The next one I don't even think was a collaboration, it was just an Easter egg put in by the developers. When It Chapter 2 was scheduled to release, you could find some red balloons coming out of sewers in Pleasant Park. If you popped them, some creepy clown laughs would play. This was the extent of the quote-unquote collaboration, but a lot of people thought that this was teasing an actual proper collaboration in the future with a Pennywise the Clown skin. Honestly, even back when this was all happening, I thought that this idea was stupid. First of all, I don't think Fortnite would have collaborated with such a dark movie back then. I know that they had already done an official collaboration with John Wick in Season 9, but that was because John Wick was already connected to Fortnite because of the Reaper skin, which was a knockoff John Wick in the Season 3 Battle Pass. It's also one of the most iconic Fortnite skins of all time, and everybody just called it a John Wick skin. So there was precedence for the actual John Wick to do a collaboration within the game. And also, John Wick was only rated R for language and some action violence, which isn't really too bad. It, on the other hand, is really dark. Not only does it have some visceral visual terror, it also deals with situations like child abuse, sexual assault, patricide, and so on. I don't think such a dark piece of media has a place in a kids game like Fortnite. And yeah, I knew that they did an extensive Deadpool collaboration later on, and Deadpool is a really mature movie franchise, but it is ultimately a comedy action, and fits better in Fortnite than a mature horror. So in Chapter 2 Season 2, we were introduced to a new character, MJOLNIR, who was a human-cat hybrid. The next season, we were introduced to his son, Kit. Let's avoid talking about how his mother was most likely a human, and the perplexing question as to how a cat-human hybrid and a human could have a baby that's entirely a cat. Let's instead talk about some probability. MJOLNIR is a calico cat, and the chances of a male calico to even be born is 1 in 3,000. So that's already some insane odds, but wait, it gets even more extreme. The chances of a male calico cat to be able to have children is also 1 in 3,000. So for MJOLNIR to even be able to have a son, that would be a 1 in 10 million chance. On top of that, the odds of MJOLNIR's son being a calico is another 1 in 3,000, which means that the odds of MJOLNIR and Kid are 1 in 27 billion. Crazy, right? With all the crazy different skins in Fortnite, it was only a matter of time before two different species would fall in love. We see this in a series of loading screens, where Leviathan and Jungle Scout seem to have a loving relationship. It's front and center here in this loading screen, and it's even referenced in this loading screen that released later. So yeah, it does seem like interspecies relationships do exist in Fortnite. Make of that as you will. As the weeks of Season 9 went on, we slowly uncovered a mural. This mural depicts Jonesy painting a giant picture on the wall of the bunker. By the end of the season, we can see that Jonesy was somehow able to predict the future, with the upcoming Final Showdown event front and center. We could also see other drawings of the rocket and the meteor, which we initially thought were references to Season 4, but were actually predictions of the events which would happen in Season X. We don't know if this was just Jonesy having conspiracy theory visions of the future, or just a way for the developers to tease future events. I don't really see any way Jonesy could have seen the future, so I'm inclined to believe it's the latter. However, after Chapter 2 Season 2, some people came up with a theory. So the live event for Chapter 2 Season 2 was called The Device. In this event, Midas pushes back the storm using the titular device, but because of that he breaks the loop, disrupting the simulation and transporting the players to the higher dimension. We see an office in this dimension, with actual voices yelling about how they have to fix the issue. After being transported in between the simulation and the higher dimension a couple of times, one of the executives enters the office. His name is John Jones, and he looks exactly like Jonesy from inside the simulation. This theory states that while modeling some people for the simulation, this organization decided to use the likeness of one of their executives, John Jones, and they also gave these simulated people his personality. But by doing that, all the people in the simulation based on him probably retained a tiny bit of his memories, and since this version of Jonesy was stuck alone in the bunker for so long with his own thoughts, he was somehow able to unlock these memories deep within him. If you think about it, this explains why so many different characters use the same base model just beyond game design. Like, they are canonically different people who for some reason look the same. If this all confused you, here it is simplified. Basically, Fortnite Battle Royale is the Matrix. The people inside of the simulation are forced to kill each other over and over again in what is known as a loop. A lot of the characters look the same because they are based off of one of the developers of the simulation, and because of that, they still hold some memories of the man who created them. Bunker Jonesy was the only one to unlock these memories and be able to unveil the master plan the developers have in store for the simulation. Man, I feel bad for the people who left the game 2 years ago and are watching this video with no idea of what was going on. Don't worry, I feel the same. Back near the end of Chapter 1 Season 4, there was a rumored LTM that would be coming to the game called the Leviathan LTM. It was supposedly a 50v50 mode, where one team would have to escort a giant monster to Wailing Woods, while the other team would have to try and stop them. So essentially payload from Overwatch and Fortnite. So this was hyped up, but as we know now, it never actually came out. However, that didn't stop some fans from pretending that it was actually real. A lot of people started talking about how cool the Leviathan LTM was, but eventually it became a giant inside joke to pretend to have fond memories of playing this fake game mode. So yeah, the Leviathan LTM isn't a real LTM, it's just a huge inside joke in the community. So we initially thought loot llamas were just piñatas, just inanimate cardboard boxes with loot inside of them. But we were wrong. In Season 8, we uncovered some disturbing evidence of loot llamas actually being alive. In the tribal site near Sunny Steps, we see a campfire with a skeleton on it. Since the feet are still intact, we know that this is a loot llama. But if loot llamas were just piñatas, then why do they have skeletons? And why are they being cooked for meat? Does that mean that they are alive? And if so, what exactly are we doing to them every time we open them up? Athena is the codename for the Chapter 1 map. In the Season X event, a black hole consumes the island and transports us to the Chapter 2 island. So, if we were able to survive going through the black hole, the Athena island may have survived as well. Or, if the black hole was actually a wormhole, there may be a way to go back to Athena. Overall, the reason why this theory is so popular is that people just want to go back to the old map. I would like to say that we will never see Athena again, but I still have my doubts about that. I feel like once we start seeing the 0 point in the Chapter 2 map and the 7 resume their activities, we may see Athena again. Whether this means we're going back to the old map, or the old map will come back but heavily changed, or even if the Chapter 3 map will be the Chapter 1 and 2 maps fused together like the roof zones from Season X. No, this isn't an SCP reference. When Chapter 2 Season 1 was first released, players were quick to find a mysterious new location. This was only known as Redacted, and it had a mysterious bunker which was unopenable. No matter what, there is something important inside that bunker. I feel like later on in this chapter, even if it's in this chapter Season X, Redacted will reveal its true name and open. Now, the 0 point was located under the vault in Loot Lake in Chapter 1. Since Loot Lake was near the center of the Chapter 1 island, many people thought that the 0 point would be located underneath what is now the Authority in Chapter 2. I mean, it's in the middle of the island, and there was a bunch of important events there. But I doubt it because in Chapter 2 Season 2, we see what's under the center of the island, and it's just Midas' office where he built the device. So unless the 0 point is deeper underneath, it's not under the center. And considering how mysterious the devs purposely made Redacted, the 0 point is most likely in there. Also remember that the rift at the end of Chapter 2 Season 3 was located right above Redacted, while the rift in Chapter 1 Season 4 was located right above Loot Lake. It's another similarity that connects the two. In Season 8, the end of season event was the Unvaulting. In the Unvaulting, we were able to go into the vault and choose one old weapon or item to bring back. The weapon that won the vote was the drum gun, which was a weird choice considering how hated it was by parts of the community. This led to several theories that the event was actually rigged by Epic Games, and that the drum gun was supposed to win all along. Some people said that the votes didn't matter, others said that Epic Games blocked players from entering the event, which skewed the vote. Overall, I think this theory is stupid. Like, the latter explanation doesn't even make sense. Even if they blocked some people from voting, how do they even know what they would have voted for? Ultimately, it's probably just the fact that the people who didn't want the drum gun were just a vocal minority. I find it hard to believe that Epic Games committed voter suppression against their player base. Mecha Team Leader is a mech, where each body part is a different character. This is a reference to older mechs in shows like Power Rangers or Voltrons, where different people control different parts of the body. Mecha Team Leader is made up of 5 different skins. The torso and head is Cuddle Team Leader, the arms are Drift and Rex, and the legs are Beef Boss and Tomato Head. So it wouldn't be too hard to assume that these skins would control their respective body parts. During the final showdown event, Caddis was able to rip Mecha Team Leader's arm off, which was the one inspired by Drift. Since the arm fell into the ocean and sank, this led to people thinking that Drift is dead. Ultimately, I don't think that this is the case. It's pretty obvious that Singularity was the one who piloted the whole robot, as she was the one who oversaw its construction, and her styles were based off the skins Mecha Team Leader was based off of. So no, this theory was false. In the Season 5 trailer, we see a person in the real world who got transported to the Fortnite island via Rift. Now, normies will tell you that this was just an actor doing promotional material for a game. But, what if he was an actual person who was trespassing and he got abducted by Epic Games, who then put him in the game as a skin? What do you have to say for yourself, Epic? Many people falsely believe that the Icon series is when famous people got put into the game as skins or as part of a crossover. This is incorrect. In reality, every Icon series skin started off in Fortnite and then came into the real world through interdimensional travel. Don't let anybody fool you for a second into thinking that Travis Scott was a rapper for years before he did a collab with Fortnite. No, he was always originally from Fortnite. From now on, whenever you talk about him with other people, always refer to him as Travis Scott from Fortnite. You will be sure to impress everybody with your knowledge and get so many new friends. Okay, back to actual serious topics. So, Fish Stick is obviously a fish, but more importantly, he is a flopper. Floppers can be eaten by everyone, including Fish Stick. So, he's a cannibal. But that's not all. In Craggy Cliffs, we can find a restaurant called Sticks, where they sell fish as food. This restaurant is owned by Fish Stick, which means he profits off of selling his own species as foods to others. Kind of disturbing when you think about it. When cars were added near the end of Chapter 2 Season 3, unfortunately you weren't able to drive them in Team Rumble. They were just simply unusable. But strangely, there was this one car near the edge of the map that was drivable. I think it's because it was initially attached to a crane as decorations, and the developers forgot to disable it because it just served a decorative purpose before. I don't really know how this is a mystery, but might as well talk about it. In Chapter 2 Season 2, if you leveled up beyond level 100, you were able to get these Golden Agent styles for your Battle Pass skins. The final one was Golden Agent Peely, and to fully unlock it, you had to reach level 350. Now, this requirement was absolutely insane, as you basically had to be playing 24/7 in order to get it. Of course, people did grind and get it through highly optimized strategies, but that basically meant having no fun while playing the game. Obviously, I didn't even try to get it, and I think Epic Games was wrong for releasing a skin which you couldn't even get even if you got all the XP from challenges and punch cards. Like, even if you did do them, you'd still be like 150 levels away. During the 2019 summer event, there was this 1 million HP rubber duck they added, which floated down rivers of the map. Obviously, 1 million HP was ridiculous to break in a single match, which was the point, it wasn't meant to be broken. But looking online, I was able to find an old stream of players breaking the duck over the course of 50 minutes using turrets. In May 2018, all the way back in Chapter 1 Season 4, there was this weird item that was only in the game for one day. This was a backpack called Eye of the Storm. It looked like the backbling for Rose Team Leader. It took up one inventory slot, and if you equipped it, you could see where the next storm circle was, which was pretty useful. What was strange about it is that it was only in the game for like one day before it got removed. People thought at the time that it was just unfinished and that it would come out in the next update, but it never came out at all. To this day, we have no idea what happened to it. So this is just a cool detail in the game. If you go into replay mode and pause at the exact moment you equip a minigun, you can actually see that it's a suitcase that unfolds to become a minigun. It's a nice equip animation for the weapon, especially when the equip animations for the other weapons are just the players pulling out the gun from within space. In Chapter 2 Season 2, there was a leaked variant of a missile launcher called Misty Bob. It was apparently going to be an anti-aircraft weapon, which was supposed to take down choppers. There was even leaked lock-on sounds and an achievement for it, but it never came out. Maybe the devs decided that people wouldn't want to use up an inventory slot for an anti-chopper weapon when regular guns already take them down fine. So in the Chapter 2 Season 1 Star Wars event, which was horrible should I remind you, there was this drawn out segment where J.J. Abrams talked to the audience about the upcoming movie. But since he did it virtually, he was given a unique in-game avatar, which was essentially a skin based off of him. Now nobody expected this model to actually be sold as a skin, and I don't think anybody would have wanted that. But it's still interesting because it's a unique character model we'll never see again. Many players of Fortnite will remember the controversial Infinity Blade weapon, which was added in Season 7, but few know that this wasn't the first time the Infinity Blade was used by Epic Games. In fact, there was an entire mobile game Epic created called Infinity Blade, which featured the sword that they would reuse in Fortnite. However, by the time the Infinity Blade came to Fortnite, Infinity Blade was already taken off the App Store. So the name and its appearance was probably just a nod to one of Epic's older games. So there's this uncommon emote you can buy in the game called Snap. That's all, you just raise your arm and snap. Well, when the endgame crossover game mode came to Fortnite in 2019, many players had the thought to use that emote while playing as THANOS, because the THANOS snap is just so iconic. It turned out that if you used the emote while you were THANOS, there was actually a unique effect that showed up on screen. It was a pretty nice Easter egg put into the game by Epic. One of the most bizarre things was that the Chapter 2 map got leaked several weeks before Chapter 2 came out. I actually saw it on Reddit, and I remember thinking to myself that it looked so fake, and then I just moved on. In fact, it was so insignificant that I forgot about it even after Chapter 2's release, until somebody pointed out that the map that we got was exactly the same as the leaked one. When I looked more into the situation for this video, I found out that the timeline of events was even more interesting. So, this map has been floating around for a while, but people were calling it fake. But then Hypex said that this was probably going to be the new map, which increased its legitimacy because Hypex is a trusted source for news about leaks. But then, in a twist, some random Twitter user came out and claimed that this was a map that was actually an artistic concept made by him, and not a leak. So with this apparent confirmation that it was fake, people moved on until Chapter 2's release, when they eventually realized it was actually a leak. But by that time, the supposed artist had deleted his account. Eventually, Epic sued the guy who was responsible for leaking the image initially. Man, that kind of sucks, doesn't it? Imagine leaking a new map, having nobody believe you, and then having the company sue you for leaking info nobody believed. Overall, it's just a really bizarre story. In Chapter 2 Season 1, there was this thing called the Annual Pass 2020. So with this Annual Pass, players would spend like 4,000 V-Bucks to buy it, and if you bought it, you would automatically receive every Battle Pass for each Fortnite season in 2020 when it came out. Also, you would get 3 exclusive skins, Bash, ASTRO, and the Brilliant Bomber. This idea was scrapped, however, and the skins that were supposed to be exclusive were just released in the item shop. Well, with the exception of Brilliant Bomber, it's still unreleased for some reason. So the default dance is probably one of the most iconic skins to come out of Fortnite. There's actually 2 music tracks you can play when you do the emote. The one everybody knows and loves, you know, it goes like na 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 na, and the weird drum one that nobody likes. However, did you know that in the early days of the game, there was actually a 3rd track for the default dance? Yeah, take a listen. So in Season 8, there was a skin called GEMINI that was leaked. It was a space bunny with a blue and a red style. Immediately, it became very popular, and people eagerly waited for it to release. But it never did. Later on, a skin called ASTRO Assassin was leaked and released. Looking at them side by side, it's obvious that ASTRO Assassin was heavily based on GEMINI. I mean, the bodies are the same, and they both have a red and blue style. Although, for whatever reason, the red style for ASTRO Assassin was never released alongside the skin. It still remains locked to this day, which is so bizarre. People were disappointed with this downgrade. I mean, when they have such an anticipated skin, why change it and strip of what makes it unique before releasing it? Well, it turns out that GEMINI looks exactly like a skin called Rave Mave from another game called Paladins. If Epic released GEMINI in its current form, it could lead to legal troubles with Paladins, so they changed the skin before release. I understand this change, but can Epic just release the red style for ASTRO Assassin already? The Infinite Dab is an emote where you just dab infinitely, alternating between arms. It was meant to be stupid, and that's why it became a fan favorite. Well, since the name has infinite in it, Epic took that seriously. Normally when you emote in the lobby, even if it loops in-game, it stops after like 30 seconds in the lobby. But not the infinite dab. One update day, Epic wrote in their patch notes that they increased the duration of the infinite dab in the lobby to 10 hours. Then next update, it became 11 hours. Update after that, 12 hours. And so on. It just became a running gag in the patch notes, kind of how like Minecraft has removed Herobrine in their patch notes. They eventually stopped doing it, but it was amusing while it happened. In Chapter 2 Season 2, there was this weird addition to the game. Found in Welling Woods, Bud the Mushroom was a sentient fungus. If you gave him 100 wood, he would follow you around and dance, giving you health and shield. Honestly, he was in the game for such little time that his existence feels like a weird fever dream we all collectively had. So way back in Chapter 1, there was this ugly leaked skin with the codename K-pop. People thought that this would be a Samsung exclusive skin, considering how Samsung is a South Korean company. But it never came out. Later, Samsung revealed that their new flagship phone would have a Fortnite exclusive skin, the Iconic skin. It was made in collaboration with the K-pop band Iconic. Looking at the two skins, they have similarities, and knowing that K-pop was the nickname of the former skin, it's likely that it was the beta version of the Iconic skin. I'm glad that they made the changes because the final version looks a lot more slick than whatever they were going for initially. When Fortnite added the Never Gonna emote, they announced it with this news tab. The description stated that it was a legendary skin that automatically gave you 100 shield, gold RPG, and XP at the beginning of every match. Obviously this was a ridiculous statement, and when people clicked on it to learn more, it led them to the shop tab that had the new emotes. Basically, Fortnite rickrolled their players. But what about the skin advertised? Well, it was obviously fake, but what could it look like? Looking at the silhouette, it seems to have the head of Cuddle Team Leader and 4 arms. Or maybe it's just one pair of arms and the other pair is just a backbling. Who cares honestly, it's probably never gonna come out. That was a totally unintentional pun that I made when writing this script, but I'm gonna roll with it. In Chapter 2 Season 2, each of the Battle Pass skins are agents. You are able to choose their allegiance, either Alter or Ego, and change the look of the skin in a new style. However, you were only locked to that style. For example, if you chose the Alter allegiance for Brutus, you would only be able to use his normal and Alter styles, but not his Ego style. However, the only skin that did not adhere to this rule was Agent Peely. For him, you were able to use both his Alter and Ego style. Considering how Agent Peely seems to always work discreetly, we can theorize that he is actually a double agent and that he is working for both sides. In Season 6, a new item called Shadow Rocks was added. By consuming these, you were able to turn invisible and get infinite jump boosts for a set time. However, the invisibility wasn't absolute, only completely invisible if you stayed completely still, but if you moved around, other people would be able to see a silhouette of you moving around. However, there was a glitch where you were completely invisible no matter what. And not only that, but you would be invisible forever as well, making the stones overpowered. So yeah, they got removed pretty quickly, as the case is with many of the items I talked about today. In Chapter 2 Season 4, the Alter vs Ego storyline that the whole chapter had been following so far was dropped for the Marvel stuff. So the henchmen from the previous seasons were forgotten about. Or were they? In Chapter 2 Season 4, one henchman from each organization still remained behind on the map, just chilling. Eventually they met each other, and despite being from opposite teams, they seemed to have hit it off in a friendship, spending their days in dance-offs. Nowadays, they're touring the map, and I had the pleasure of seeing them hanging out together in Hydra 16. What an inspirational story. In Chapter 2 Season 2, if you looked in Retail Row, you could see a framed picture on the wall with Brutus standing with a woman. And in Chapter 2 Season 3, we see that Jules, who controls the Authority, put up a bunch of pictures of Brutus in the Authority. And also, one of the variants for Jules is wearing Brutus's mask. Maybe Brutus and that woman were lovers and Jules is their daughter? Just food for thought. Omega Lights was basically the OG Golden Peely. In order to unlock these cool colors for Omega, you had to reach level 80, which was insanely hard back in Chapter 1, but it was a cool reward. Overall, I think the Omega Lights look 100 times better than a fully golden banana. In Season 5, Tomato Town was rifted into the far past, and returned later that season as a Tomato Temple. It seems that Tomato Head was worshipped as a god when he was in the ancient past, and he was able to create a cult revolving around tomatoes. In this loading screen, we can see the cult of Tomato Head indoctrinating a beef boss heathen into their order by forcing a mask upon him. I always knew there was something sinister behind that creepy smile. Viewers of my channel know that I talked about the relationship between Fortnite and Minecraft on this channel. In fact, as of right now, it's the most popular video on my channel. Considering how hostile parts of the Minecraft community is to Fortnite, it may come as a surprise to them that Fortnite has actually collaborated with Minecraft. Well, just in China, but it's still interesting. And it also wasn't really a collaboration, it was just separate announcements for events occurring in each game. But it's still an official announcement with both Fortnite and Minecraft on it. So yeah, that's the closest we got to a collab, unless we get a real one in the future. In Chapter 2 Season 4, we got Thor's hammer Mjolnir as a pickaxe. However, players noticed that there was a delay in the equip, that it actually started swinging a fraction of a second later than other pickaxes. Later on in the season, it was found that Wolverine's claws also had the same issue. It may seem like such a minor issue, but when you actually use them, it really does throw you off. Like after such a long time using other pickaxes, using these two with the delay just makes harvesting feel awkward and clunky. Not to mention that it provides a disadvantage for pros doing box fights. And finally, we have our last entry. This is the darkest, most sinister theory Fortnite has to offer. I cannot even put the horror into words, and this is the only image I can use to explain it. And with that out of the way, we have officially finished our dive down into the Fortnite Iceberg. If you are still watching, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I would appreciate it if you liked, commented, and shared the video with your friends. Also, don't forget to subscribe if you want to, it really does mean a lot to me. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.